speaker is an active contributor to the city of Tyler and Smith County. He strongly supports open, accountable government. He is a member of the Greater Tyler Association of Realtors and a real estate sales consultant doing business as Heritage Land Realty. He successfully completed Class 9 of the Texas Agricultural Lifetime Leadership Program and was a member of the Smith County Appraisal District Appraisal Review Board. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree from the Missouri University of Science and Technology, majoring in engineering management with a minor in communication, and later earned a paralegal degree from Tyler Junior College. His background in the manufacturing industry has given him a comprehensive appreciation for the balance between jobs, economic development, and commerce. He is a proud parent of his 12-year-old son, Braden, and an advocate for strong families.
Yeah.
He previously served as chairman of the Texas chapter of the National Parents Organization and chairman of the Northeast Texas Disproportionality Advisory Board. He formerly served on the board of directors of the East Texas State Fair and Tyler Day Nursery. He currently serves as chairman of the Smith County Democratic Party. Mr. Michael Morris.
Come sit up here, Mr. Tolbert. He's gonna be our speaker. Yes, we had some people, they have their dancing clothes on. I thought they said they wanted to dance tonight. You said you want to dance tonight?
Me?
The daughter here,
No, she wants to do a poem on Tuesday.
Okay, I thought it was tonight then. Okay, I'm sorry. Come on. I said you had the dancing clothes on. I said we had the dancing tonight. Okay then, I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak tonight. This evening I will be speaking on the Kwanzaa principle of Ujamaa. It is a Swahili word, and if I could get you to repeat this after me, Ujamaa.
Ujamaa.
Okay. Ujamaa is cooperative economics. First, let's start with the noun in that term, economics. Cooperative is the adjective that modifies cooperative economics. Economics is defined as the branch of knowledge concerned with production, consumption, and transfer of wealth. I think that's something we all can relate to, economics. Okay, whether you actively participate or not, it affects all of us. The other part of the definition is the condition of a region or group as regards material prosperity. So both of those definitions apply to us, and this is a very important principle of Kwanzaa. The other part of that definition is cooperative. And to describe that, I'd like to read about an example that I think is the prime example of cooperative economics. Who here is familiar with Black Wall Street? Okay, good. And I'd like to make this an interactive, participative experience. I was in a class last weekend, and they said that you retain so much of what you hear, a little bit more of what you see, and a whole lot more of what you do. So I'd like for you all to interact and participate in this. In the early 1900s, Tulsa, Oklahoma experienced a major oil boom, attracting thousands. Many African Americans migrated from southern states hoping to escape the harsh racial tension while profiting off of the oil industry. Yet even in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Jim Crow laws were at large, causing the town to be vastly segregated, with most African Americans settling in the northern section of the town. From that segregation grew a Black entrepreneurial mecca that would affectionately be called Black Wall Street. The town was established in 1906 by entrepreneur O.W. Gurley. And by 1921, there were over 11,000 residents and hundreds of prosperous businesses, all owned and operated by Black Tulsans and patronized by both whites and blacks. J.B. Stratford bought large tracts of land in Tulsa and sold them exclusively to blacks, subscribing to the belief that they had the best chance at economic success by pooling their resources and supporting one another's businesses. Many of the businesses in Greenwood, which they refer to as Little Africa, were more prosperous than many in the white community. So that is a prime example of cooperative economics. There were certain conditions at the time, like the article said, that because of segregation, people didn't have a choice about where they took their business. But what we see is it can be successful.
Right.
So is there a way to achieve that same level of success with the freedoms that have been fought and won through civil rights? Okay, now we have equal access. We can go to what was Woolworths and get lunch. We can ride on the bus and sit anywhere we choose. So that's something I want us to kind of think about as we're discussing this topic this evening. Another example is the Federation of Southern Cooperatives. They're an organization that was primarily black farmers in the South. They work together to buy equipment, buy seeds, to share experience, information. If you're in farming and you utilize one piece of equipment that you only need, say, 1 week of the year, do you rent that piece of equipment? Do you buy it and let it sit for 51 weeks? Or do you collectively buy it and then amongst your organization share it? That's cooperative economics. And the Federation of Southern Cooperatives, there was a big lawsuit a few years back where they found that the USDA was systematically discriminating against black farmers. And because they had an organization, they were able to get together and share the cost of bringing that litigation forward. And ultimately they won, but it's been a struggle to get the federal government to pay on its obligation. But there again is a benefit of pooling resources. I was watching a TED video, and the lady's name was Angela Kumar. And in that video, she was born in India. And she was raised with one religion. Yes, she grew up in America in, I believe, a Catholic school. So she had varying experiences with religion. So she went on a journey to find God. You know, there are all these people all over the world with very strongly held beliefs on religion. So she wanted to figure out who's right. So she went on a journey to find God. And while she did not find God, the one true God, what she did find was that regardless of where you're from, what's your background, people all want three things in common. And those are health, happiness, and love. Regardless of where they were in the world, people wanted those three things. You know, money may have come up somewhere in the list, but consistently at the top of the list were health, happiness, and love. Now, where does money fit into that? In America, it costs money to buy prescriptions, to buy healthy food, to buy dental care, to provide a lot of things. So economics is a component of health. Happiness. I can tell you that if I'm driving and my check engine light is not on because I don't have the money to take it in and get it checked, or if I'm driving and my tires are bald, or you know, there's a bill that I can't cover, I'm not going to be as happy as I would if I had the resources to cover that. So it is a factor. And love. We all know that, you know, having means, having the peace of mind that comes with financial security just makes everything go better. So My goal for tonight is for each one of you to walk away from this evening with a set of goals to carry you through to next year, this time next year, so that when we come back here, we can each say that my financial condition is better than it was a year ago. If you're a business owner, if you're a homeowner, if you're the head of a household, if you're a consumer, every single one of us can make a decision to affect cooperative economics and improve our financial condition. So I'm gonna go through an example, but I want you to think about a purchase, an investment, a marketing decision that you made as a business owner, an entrepreneur, or consumer. Potential areas are housing, transportation, education, or business. When I first moved here to Tyler, Smith County in '99, and I had a job lined up, and I knew that I wanted to buy instead of rent. Okay, I knew I wasn't gonna buy first thing when I got here, so I had to have a temporary place to stay. So I had an aunt that was very gracious and allowed me to stay with her for a few months while I looked for a place to stay. So now I had to decide, what area of town do I want to be in? How many bedrooms do I want? Do I want an older house in a classic neighborhood or something newer? Well, I can tell you that part of my life experience was that I knew I wanted investment property. So for me, that meant a duplex. So that narrowed down my options. You know, there are only so many duplexes in town. I could have built one, but that wasn't an option. You know, that was part of the decision-making process. So there were only a few duplexes in town, so I had to look at the economics of it, and it made sense. So I live in a duplex, I live on one side, I rent out the other, and as it is now, the rental income from the other side is more than enough to cover my mortgage. So, you know, that's a decision. Those are the types of things that every single one of us has to make on a regular basis. So, how important is this? I'm gonna read you a report. It's dated December 11th, 2019, so this is pretty recent. It says, the Center for American Progress announces formation of the National Council on Eliminating Black-White Wealth Gap. For over 400 years, structural racism embedded in federal, state, and local policies has produced and maintained a stark wealth gap between Black and white Americans. Today, the typical white household holds 10 times more wealth than the typical Black household. Let that sink in. Okay, let me talk a little bit about wealth accumulation in America. It's not like the game of Monopoly, where at the beginning of the game, the banker gives everybody the same amount, and you start, you know, with a clean slate. No, that's not how it works. Right now, we've got land in our family that's land that my great-grandfather purchased. He was a farmer. He was a blacksmith, a farmer. He had 13 kids, so hardworking man. When he bought that land, it was for agriculture. Little did he know it was in East Texas, part of the, there's an oil field that covers, it's a unitized oil field that covers a big part of, you know, like the Kilgore, Eastern, okay. Well, to this day, we're still receiving royalties from that land that he purchased over 100 years ago.
Wow.
Okay, so wealth accumulation, your financial condition is more than just the decisions that you make. Okay, unfortunately, that's only a small portion of the land that he bought over his lifetime. There was a gentleman by the name of J.B. McClung, they called him Till McClung, and Asbury King. Asbury King was a former sheriff of Gregg County. It is well documented that he tortured, threatened, and used all sorts of illegal means to take land from Black people back at that time, okay? lawsuits have been brought over the years, but the reality is, we did not have equal protection of the law. Okay? It is what it is. So what can we do now going forward? I mentioned Monopoly. That's one of our favorite games, at least it's mine. I don't know if it's Braden's yet. But I can tell that each time we play that, he's learning lessons. He may not know it, but I'm teaching lessons, and I can tell he's learning the lessons. Okay? Every time, I beat him. But I can see that he adjusts from the last game, picking up on what did he do last time? And eventually, he's gonna learn all those lessons, and it's gonna come down to luck of the draw, the roll of the dice. But until that time, he needs to learn those lessons about, when do I buy? When do I decide to pay to get out of jail? He's already learned that by going around the board, that's the only way you can generate earned income. That's the only way we introduce more wealth into the game. So, while there may come a time when it's better to just sit in free parking, there's other times when you gotta pay to play. You gotta get out there, you gotta make deals. And that's another thing I've noticed, that he's learning how to negotiate. You know, a lot of people don't use the option where you can auction a property. If somebody lands on it and doesn't want to buy it, the banker is supposed to auction it off. We utilize that rule to our advantage. So let me get back to this article. This disparity persists even after controlling for protective factors such as education, income, and home ownership. While lawmakers and policy experts increasingly agree that racial wealth gap poses a serious problem, little consensus exists on the most effective ways to eliminate it. Wealth, a household's assets minus its debts, is a key measure of financial well-being. Unfortunately, the United States is home to stark and persistent racial disparities in household wealth. While various proposals exist with the aim of shrinking the racial wealth gap, estimates of our long-term effects are limited. A new simulation created by the Center for American Progress demonstrates how separate proposals implemented today in combination or in isolation would reduce disparities in average wealth by 2060. If things stay the way they are, they're going to continue the way they have been. So something has to change. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the report that right now, Black women are the most educated group in our society. But when you've got that hurdle, when you've got that anchor that has been weighing on you from past losses, it's hard to ever catch up because, like I said, it's generational. Let's see, the simulation specifically tracks white and Black couples who are currently beginning their careers and starting to accumulate wealth and compares their total projected household wealth as they near retirement. With wealth eases the transition between jobs and neighborhoods and provides a cushion in response to emergencies and during retirement. That's another thing that I think Monopoly teaches. I play the game because I know it's a game. I know that I can take risks because it's just a game. Yet some people feel like, I can't get rid of all my cash. What am I gonna do? Well, I can mortgage a property. All I gotta do is flip it over and the bank is gonna give me some money. I don't have to go through a credit check. I don't have to worry about, income or any of that. So there's some lessons to be learned there. And that's one thing I've noticed is that playing as though you have nothing to lose increases the chances that you will win. Here's a good real-world example. Okay, we're all familiar with the president and how he wrote a book saying that he was self-made. Only thing he ever got was $1 million loan from his father. Well, we all know that was false. That has given a lot of people false hope that they could do what he did. He excluded the fact that he was receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars from his father. okay? When he has that cushion, when he knows no matter what he does, how many times he files bankruptcies, he's only gonna fall so far.
He is now.
Well, the reality is, there's some of those risks we can't take, because we've got mouths to feed, right? We got bills to pay. So, that's one of the benefits of having cooperative economics. You can kind of spread that, you can cushion that risk out amongst your group. Wealth is also transferable and allows households to finance their descendants' futures by helping cover the cost of education, a health emergency, or even a down payment on a home. However, in 2016, the median white household held $171,000 in wealth, almost 10 times more than the median black household's $17,600. That's major. You know, when you buy a house, they look at three things: income, credit, and assets. And just like a stool, a step stool, a bar stool, you need 3 legs for stability. If you only got 2, you're gonna be wobbly. The median racial wealth gap of more than 150 may understate the extent of the disparity between black and white households. The average net worth of a white household was $919,216, in contrast with the average net worth of a black household at just $139,000, showing a much larger difference of $780,000. Regardless of the method of measuring wealth, the evidence is clear. A considerable wealth disparity exists between white and black households. Let's see. Racial disparities in wealth are not a result of individual or family choices, but rather the result of structural racism in American public policy. Anybody familiar with Byron Allen and his lawsuit with Comcast? They're one of the first pieces of civil rights legislation after the Civil War is now at risk of being taken away. And that legislation allowed us to contract with the government. That ensured that black people who had just been freed from chattel slavery would have the opportunity to participate in commerce with the government. And I'm glad that we've got Ms. Clover Bolden here. She is the executive director of the Tyler Metro Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, sir.
And she is working on getting some local businesses certified as hubs to make sure that we are benefiting from the full rights and privileges that come with being an American. Many government programs designed to expand access to home ownership, higher education, fair wages, and union protections have largely benefited white households, allowing them to build and transfer wealth across generations, while black households were systematically excluded. As a result, the racial wealth gap persisted even after controlling for educational attainment, marital status, age, and income. In fact, college-educated black households have 30% less wealth at the median than non-college educated white households. Without intervention, these disparities are expected to persist for at least another 200 years. The white-black wealth gap was created and will only be eliminated by systematic and intentional public policy choices. So, having said all that, anybody think of a personal, like a business decision that you can make to improve your situation through cooperative economics? Anybody got an example they can think of?
Like person.
Okay, and if it's not as a business owner, how about as a consumer?
Oh, definitely.
Buying your community.
Yes, definitely as consumers.
Also,
Yes.
from the beginning, you mentioned, I think lack of knowledge in school with credit. So many kids,
Just
not
financial
just black
literacy.
kids, mess their credit up and don't understand how to take advantage of, loans, push up top of the credit and not mess that up. There's also so many things, with real estate. Like, you should never rent. Kids don't understand that from the beginning. Always start out, don't mess your credit up. As soon as you can, build your credit with loans, small loans, get your credit rating up, then buy a house. Don't get stuck in a rut of renting where you never own anything.
That's
So many
what
kids don't
you said.
understand that. First principle, that's how you first get established and get established with property that way. Then maybe move on to buying, like you said, Richard Duplex house, the second half. You can start buying your own properties once you get that confidence and know how it works. That's a big part of America, just that aspect, credit and buying property.
And let me mention this, the cooperative economics part of that is, when I moved here, I didn't know any realtors. So I called the NAACP and I asked them to recommend a realtor. Okay, and I ended up working with somebody that shared my values, that most likely was gonna reinvest their earnings back into causes that I cared about. Okay, I could have made sure that, the appraiser, the surveyor, the mortgage loan officer, all those people involved in that process, I guarantee you, we have somebody in our community that shares our values, that we can do business, that's gonna value us and share our interests. Okay?
That is important to see, and it does take a little bit more work, but, I mean, with the internet and Google, you can seek out people in your community to.
And that's something that I'd like to make sure we have a conversation with Ms. Bolden about, is making sure that we have a directory of people that, when we need a service, we know these are people that are gonna look out for our community, they've been vetted, and we know that, they're people that we can do business with and know we're gonna be taken care of well. For now, Mr. Brewer, I'd like to talk to the people, for the people.
I am the people.
Okay.
I'm fighting for the people
Well,
more than anybody in this
what's your
room.
question?
It's not a question, I'm saying, I'm loving everything you're saying, and if you're looking for a cooperative example, the summer of the 8th grade, I rented the house across from Woodard Canning Company, and I rented it out to 2 other guys, so I was making money on that. And then when I went to UT, I wanted to find 4 guys to buy a house in Austin, near the university. I couldn't do that, so I bought a brand new mobile home, and I rented out the rooms, and I did that when I moved to A&M too, and I paid for the thing more than 3 times over, and made money when I sold the thing. So the whole deal about America, and which you have to say, and once again, I'm loving everything I'm hearing from what you're saying, is property is key. That was part of the Declaration of Independence that they made Jefferson pull it out, because the southern states were considering blacks as property, and none of them were gonna sign it if property was in life, liberty, property, and so they changed it to pursuit of happiness. So the message here, and I'm once again loving everything you're saying, property is key. And if you're renting or looking for some subsidy and stuff with strings attached, it's just, if you can do it on your own and with your friends, because the guys that were renting those rooms from me, especially in Austin, were kids from Robert E. Lee, that I went to school with.
It's interesting that you bring up the Declaration of Independence. The speaker last night spoke of that. And I asked him about the hypocrisy of all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Yet, when Thomas Jefferson wrote that, he owned slaves.
Right.
He was having children with his slaves, and he enslaved his own children. So the hypocrisy in that statement, although it's a beautiful sentiment, I think is noteworthy. And let me say this, the reason that America is a democracy is because these people fought to make it a democracy.
Okay.
So, Ms.
That was,
Bolden,
wait,
I'm sorry,
wait,
Ms.
You brought up the.
I answered your question.
And
Ms.
I
Bolden,
need to,
let her
I
speak
need to
first.
straighten that out.
Ms.
That
Bolden, go
was-
ahead.
It's very brief. And also because you're in real estate as well, and maybe you can help enlighten us. I moved to Tyler about 2 years ago after Hurricane Harvey. We ended up putting down roofs, we repaired our property back home, but we're staying here. So it's come to my attention that they're trying to develop North Tyler, very aggressively, which is why I did eventually join the chamber, and now I've been honored to help lead the organization in the development of North Tyler. Could you enlighten us regarding the issues that they're having getting people into 100% financed homes with very lenient credit issues? So basically, it's come to my attention that BBVA, the bank, is financing the properties, brand new homes, new construction homes, but enough people are not applying. As a realtor, could you enlighten us about that, and maybe what are some of the common hurdles that we can take out into the community and help people get over, because people won't even apply. So can you help us with that?
You know, when you say they're not applying, that sounds like a knowledge and education issue.
Fear, I think it's fear too.
You're right.
You
Yeah.
think you're not going to get it, or it's that fear of being denied or being told, no, you don't,
Right.
you can't.
And I mean, how do you overcome fear?
You gotta do it.
I
We would've
mean,
had it,
you know,
it
part
worked out
of it is
fine.
the education, I think some of that goes back to cooperative economics. You
Because I know with real
if-
estate and insurance, those are two of the biggest legs of real estate. And so I was saying also, in insurance, TD Jakes put it best. A lot of times among our people, we tend to buy what we want and beg what we need.
Yeah.
So we
Yes.
must educate
Yes.
ourselves and our children
Correct.
as well, and prioritize. Check out my toe-up nails, y'all.
Right.
But my premiums are paid.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
This month. You know, it's not a financial issue why I didn't get my nails. It's just, it was a time issue,
Correct.
but the premiums are paid, you know?
There you go.
So, I don't mind driving an 8-year-old car. You know, I'm not trying to stunt every year in a new car. So I think when we help our children have security within themselves and what they're able to accomplish, then all the bling bling lifestyle, it'll fade to the back. You know, I don't have not one label on, I'm good. This was a gift, you know? So I think when we teach our children, starting at home and then in our classrooms, and I think also representation needs to be done. If you're an educator, volunteer for those testing committees, what they're testing children on. They need your input and your feedback. I was a teacher, I was happy to volunteer. If you ask my 4th grade daughter why it's important for her to do well on her standardized testing, she will tell you, because they're not gonna build a jail cell for me based on my test scores. Because that's what they do. Because immediately after, in the Reconstruction area, that's when jails went from being for Snuffy Smiths to now a labor force. So it's all, like I said, things have been legalized and institutionalized, so. And that is another hindrance, because once you have a felony, now you can't apply, and you're not entitled to certain programs and certain opportunities, so.
Thank you for those comments. I
Thank you.
encourage you all to meet Ms. Bolden after the program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you.